Good morning, everybody. If everybody could soon take their seats, we'll get started. Thank you.
Hello. Good morning and welcome. My name is Isabella Rodriguez, and I will be the moderator for the morning session of the first day of the conference, Urbanization and Migration in Three Continents. The event will be opened by our president, Julia Frank, and Professor Felicia No with an introduction by Alejandro Portes. I would like to ask everyone, please, if you could turn off your phones before we get started. Julia Frank is a fourth-generation physician whose paternal grandparents fled Germany in the early 1930s to build a new life in Mexico. He catalyzes his deep gratitude for the kindness of strangers into a lifelong mission to improve the health, education, and well-being of people around the world. He's a globally renowned scholar whose career has been very impressive in terms of both scholarship production and administrative appointments. Dr. Frank has served as the president of the University of Miami since 2015. His keen interest in migration issues led to the Presidential Initiative on Migration, of which this event is part. Felicia Marie Knoll is the director of the Institute for Advanced Study of the Americas in the Office of Hemispheric and Global Affairs and full professor at the Miller School of Medicine at the University of Miami. She is founding president of Tomatelo Apecho AC, a Mexican NGO dedicated to promoting women's health and equity. Currently, Dr. Knoll has been serving as chair and co-chair of several lesson commissions: the Cancer and Health System Commission, the Gender-Based Violence and Maltreatment of Young People Commission, and the Lesson Commission of Global Access to Palliative Care and Pain Relief. Professor Knoll is a globally recognized and prolific scholar who has produced nearly 300 academic and policy publications. Alejandro Portes is Howard Harrison and Gabriele Snyder Back Professor of Sociology at Princeton University and Professor of Law and Distinguished Scholar of Arts and Science at the University of Miami. Professor Portes is globally renowned for his contributions on migration issues and his works on the sociology of development and urban studies. He has received numerous honorary doctorates and awards, including the prestigious Princess of Asturias Prize in the Social Science from the Kingdom of Spain. He has published several books, some of which have several editions, and has published more than 250 articles and books chapters on a wide range of sociological topics. He is the intellectual leader of the Presidential Initiative on Migration and its co-organizer together with Professor Margarita Rodriguez. President Frank, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and good morning to everyone. It is my pleasure to welcome all of you to the International Conference on Urbanization and Migration in Three Continents. We love to have you here in these relatively new facilities, which were opened just in the middle of the pandemic, so we're delighted. Believe it or not, students actually live here, which tells you how far we have come in taking care of our students. But in addition to our educational and research missions, I do believe that universities have a fundamental mission of convening, and we here at the University of Miami take very seriously this role of being conveners of the brightest minds trying to together tackle some of the most complex issues of our times. So we are delighted to host in that spirit the important conversations that are going to take place today and tomorrow. And the topic is, of course, central to the identity and the history of the University of Miami, because the city whose name we bear is, of course, a city of migrants. And that gives our community, I think, a very unique perspective. And that is why 3 years ago, in November of 2019, we launched an interdisciplinary initiative on immigration and development. Since then, needless to say, the convergence of very significant global events, including the pandemic, the various regional conflicts, and a challenged global economy, that convergence has had dramatic and drastic impacts on migration. And those impacts have been mostly experienced in cities. The work here at the University of Miami under the umbrella of the Institute for Advanced Study of the Americas has been interdisciplinary. That's the whole idea of the Institute. And it involves scholars from across our schools and colleges, several of whom will present today and tomorrow. And of course, our efforts have been led by Alejandro Portes, who is one of our most distinguished faculty members here at the University of Miami, and of course, one of the most authoritative scholars on migration and its impact on cities. Just recently, we had a chance to discuss here on campus his most recent book, Emerging Global Cities, which identifies and addresses the rapid and unexpected rise of 3 emerging cities, Dubai, Singapore, and Miami. And in the book, he explores the connections and disparities between these cities' historical paths, the factors that enable them to rise, and the ways in which they compete for global standing. Typically, cities such as New York, London, and Tokyo are identified as established global cities. Their function in the world economy transcends national borders. And that's why the concept of emerging cities is very, very, very interesting as the cases analyzed. I find it so interesting that upon reading the book, I actually told Alejandro that I would adopt his framework to characterize the University of Miami. We are about to turn 100 years, which in university time is still a very young city, but it's an established, not mature cities like older universities, not a fully established university, but an emerging global university. So I've adopted, and I give Alejandro all the credit for that. Now, the rise of those cities to positions of economic, financial, and cultural prominence did not happen by chance, but because of decisive and sustained efforts by key constituencies who took advantage of promising geopolitical conditions. Miami, for example, has made a transition from a winter travel destination to the undisputed hub for Latin America and the Caribbean to become the capital, the informal capital of the Americas. And as the city grows, those of us who steward its considerable academic resources are one of those key constituencies who can be intentional about leveraging what I call Miami's geographic endowment. And that's very much the vision for the university as it starts or approaches its second century. But let's now focus on the topic for today, and to tell us more about our vision for collaborative scholarship on urbanization and migration, it's my pleasure to introduce the director of the Institute for Advanced Study of the Americas, Dr. Felicia Knoll. Thank you again and welcome. I wish you a very productive couple of days discussing this fascinating special issue and all the work you do. Thank you for being here.
The books take up a lot of room, which is exactly what I'm going to say. Did you, even on the podium? I'd like to echo President Frank in welcoming all of you to this amazing event, Urbanization and Migration in 3 Continents, and I welcome you on behalf of our University of Miami Institute for Advanced Study of the Americas, or what we fondly call UMIA. We are incredibly pleased to have all of you in person, and I know that Alejandro is as well, because I know it drove him crazy to be doing virtual conferences. For those of you who are with us virtually, also welcome. And thank you for being with us over what will be 1.5 days of incredible conversation and academic and scholarly growth. But today's event is really only one spoke in a very large and growing wheel of contributions to UMIA and to the University of Miami. Professor Portes has catapulted our institute's academic work and reputation in so many ways, in what you're going to see today, also as a leading member of our external advisory committee, and also holding the fort on our internal advisory committee as well. Now, while I fear I may have lost count, which is a reflection of both the quality and the quantity of his academic production and work with our institute, there have been 6 books and journals launched, and the most recent being the one that President Frank referred to, Emerging Global Cities, with a lovely cover. I'll let you talk about the cover. The artist is right sitting here in front of us. And, of course, the very heavy volume that we have here today. The one that I think perhaps is most memorable for me, though, is the one titled The End of Compassion, Children of Immigrants in the Age of Deportation, which gave us a chance with many of you who are here, including Professor Kelly, to be able to think through the humanity and inhumanity of what goes on often in our world and locally here, very much so also in South Florida. But I want to also say, after thanking in particular Margarita Rodriguez, who is right over here, who is officially our University of Miami Institute for Advanced Study of the Americas Faculty Research Fellow on Migration for all of her efforts. We have had research fellows for the last 8 years, and she shines in so many ways in her unwavering dedication to the work of the Institute, to the cause, and also very much to, as you put it, to Portes. She'll say, I'm talking to Portes today. Portes tells me, Portes says we have to. So Portes is her point of reference in so many ways. And I think that speaks to the loyalty, the projection, what it means to have Alejandro as part of our community, and all of the work that you see today and in so many other moments reflects the shine and the grace and the dedication that she has given to it. Back to the books for a moment, and I think you may be surprised at what I'm going to say. The work on cities in particular has become an incredible opportunity for lunch conversation, for dinner conversation, for social conversation. I know that we are speaking here in an academic conference, but for those of us who often or too often have to host these events, when I think back, what has struck me is that almost always do we find that we're speaking of this work and these volumes. When we're speaking to people who are interested in climate, who are interested in the arts, who are interested in the cities, somehow everyone has a point of reference in one of the cities, one of the spaces that is being worked on in these books and in this conference. And so I think it's having and will continue to have an influence in all sorts of spheres that perhaps the academic group, the interdisciplinary academic group, and the rigor that you're going to see today in the conference might not take up. And I'm not even speaking about policy so much as I'm speaking about being part of a culture of thinking, of making our cities a healthier place in which to live. This conference marks the 7th event of the Presidential Migration Initiative, under the leadership of Dr. Portes, and I'm proud to say hosted at our institute. Began in fall of 2019, so the production you're seeing is just 4 short years and 1 pandemic in between. The visionary leadership of Dr. Portes has put the Institute on the academic map and locus for ideas on migration in the Americas and beyond. But I also want to say a very, very special thank you to the late Professor Thomas Freyka, who passed only recently in April 22, a true giant in the field of population studies, and I know an old and very dear friend of President Frank's, who co-led the initiative for many years before he had to leave it. And then, of course, we remember him, we recall him, and in his memory do so much of what we do with this initiative. Today's event, as many of you know, stems from a 3-day virtual conference organized by Portes and Margarita through the Institute in March 2022. Mark that date. We were thrilled to be able to co-sponsor, in that case, with the School of Law and our Department of Sociology and Criminology in the School of Arts and Sciences, which gives you an idea, a flavor of how we're able to work across our university as a result of the work of Professor Portes and in this initiative. But today what we're celebrating is this new publication, a tremendous body of hefty work in this special edition of the Journal of Ethnic and Racial Studies, and we are especially pleased to be joined by its managing editor, Amanda Eastel Bleakley. But the body of work is tremendous, not least of all because of the weight of the volume, but because of the academic weight of the volume. We, if my count is correct, engaged 30 authors, in 20 essays of the highest academic caliber. And as many of us know, even organizing a small journal series is a tremendous amount of work, but organizing this many publications in a record period of time since March of 2022 is simply, I would say, unheard of. And so we are celebrating, congratulating, and thanking both Professor Portes and Margarita for all this work. In the conference, I believe we have 17 leading scholars from across the United States, Latin America, and Europe joining us. Thank goodness we're out of the pandemic, as well as 4 virtual speakers. And I'm especially pleased that we have at least 4 leading voices in academia from our University of Miami faculty as commentators that will be with you throughout the day. Together with all the panelists and collaborators on this project on migration and urbanization, you are embodying what we know we need from our University of Miami Institute for Advanced Study of the Americas, which is the highest scholarship, publications of academic rigor, and projecting our knowledge into other regions and then back again onto our own region and hemisphere, the Americas. Once again, I deeply thank Professor Portes